Hey everybody, welcome back to Jeff Bull's Central. I wanted to do something a little interesting here today for a gaming video, because there's going to be some people in the audience, I can already feel you pulling away, because I'm discussing an unpopular game that is 15 years old, that was actually unpopular when it launched because it was not received very well. In fact, it was received so poorly that in less than 3 years it was a free game. And has remained free for over a decade now. This is Star Trek Online. Star Trek Online. It's the only MMO. Imagine this. It's the only, because there's a huge demand for it. Let me tell you. I'm making fun of Star Trek. I don't. I love it. I love Star Trek. Okay, you need to know that about me. I'm a huge Trekkie, and I'll probably talk more about that as we go on. But this is the only MMO set in the Star Trek universe. Okay, and it was developed for PC like 15 years ago, just about. It came to console about 9 years ago now, maybe 8-9 years ago. And that's when I first played it. I first played it on Xbox One. I was in the middle of a psychosis at the time. I'm schizophrenic. In case you didn't know that about me, check out my other mental health videos in addition to my gaming videos here. But it was a very interesting time in my life. I'm sure you can understand, because I was experiencing psychosis for the first time in my life. This game was a bit of a comfort. That was 2016. It was a comfort to me because I do love Star Trek, okay? Prolifically. I'm a huge Trekkie. I always have been. And I can't help but love this game. Now, it's not a very good game. And actually, I did a little research before I got on here to talk to you for this video. And the reviews for it, if you look up the old reviews from 2010, they're like 5, 6, 7 out of 10. I would agree with that. It's not the world's greatest game. It's not the prettiest game. It's 15 years old, and it wasn't even pretty 15 years ago, right? But it is exceptionally cool if you're a Trekkie, if you're into Star Trek. Now, you may ask, who's into Star Trek in the year 2025? Well, I am, as I just mentioned, but you're right. There are fewer and fewer people who are into Star Trek now than 15 years ago, for instance. 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I'm 40 years old. I grew up with like next gen Star Trek, yeah. I went back and I discovered the original series, and I even liked the Paramount Plus era with like Picard and Strange New Worlds and Discovery and Lower Decks and stuff. I love Star Trek. I love all the movies. I love Star Trek. And what's cool about this game, okay, this company that made this game, a developer called Cryptic Studios, they have changed hands, also in my research today, 4 times in the last 15 years. This game could have been ended any of those times. Corporate buyout. Any of those times, this game could have stopped. The servers could have shut down for good. And rather than shut down for good, it only grew. It grew to other platforms. I'm playing this on an Xbox Series X in the year 2025. That's amazing to me. It still runs. There's still people playing it. It's an MMO that has not got lots of people playing it, but there are people playing it. And because it's been around so long, they've had a lot of content drops for this. They've done a lot of tweaking. It's a well-oiled machine for what it is. The mechanics are stiff. The graphics are not anything to write home about. And yet, it's a very good Star Trek game in that it brings the essential Trek experience to you in a very well-made, particularly gamified way. For instance, there's 2 major things that happen in this game. First of all, there's a narrative and side missions, okay? So you're not just out in the wilderness in your MMO land, right? There are many, there's multiple storylines. There's a storyline for the original series, the Kirk and Spock era. There's a storyline for Next Gen era. There's a storyline for the Discovery era, which is what I was just talking about, the Paramount Plus shows, Discovery. There is a Vulcan campaign. There's a Klingon campaign. There's a Romulan campaign, okay? And each one has two components. There are on-foot away team missions, and there are in-space tactical combat missions between starships. And that's really the only thing happening here. And then there's hub worlds where you can buy ships and cosmetics and interact with real people, and that's the MMO part, right? You are either traveling between star systems, fighting other ships ship to ship, or you're on the ground on away team missions. And tell me that that's not an episode of Star Trek. That's all I'm saying. Tell me that that's not an essential episode of any friggin' Star Trek show or any friggin' Star Trek movie. Those are the components. And for what they are, they're okay. The tactical ship-to-ship stuff is more fun to me than the combat on the ground because it's not exactly barn burner combat, okay? Like I said, it's stiff. Point A to B, hold down trigger, activate power in a very stiff way. The ship-to-ship stuff is a little bit more fluid. You move around, you fire phasers, you fire torpedoes, right? You allocate resources to buffer shields and things like that. Everything that that Starfleet does in the middle of a firefight with the Klingons, right? You get to do all that. And you play a captain, although your rank is determined by your experience, your XP, right? Because it's an RPG. You get your own ship, you get to name it, you get to design your character, and that's it. That's Star Trek Online. Now, why would you play it in 2025? Because it still works. That's why. And let's be honest, there's not a lot of competition for best Star Trek game ever. I did a review over the summer. It was a late review then, even, for another Star Trek game. Okay, Star Trek Resurgence. Tell me if you've played this game. Hold your hand up. Hold your hand up doing the Vulcan symbol. Okay, so that is a Telltale game. Well, it's made by some of the people who worked at Telltale back in the day when Telltale was in its prime. It's a story-driven, contextual game. This is something totally different. And no, it's not wonderful. It's not exceptional. It's not going to blow the doors off the MMO anything. But why would you play it in 2025? Because it still runs, and it's still decent Trek, and it's free. Maybe that's what I should have started with. It's free, baby. That's all I got to say about Star Trek Online. Yeah, hell yes, you should play it in 2025 if you're into Star Trek and you're into free things. It's free, and it's got the Enterprise. All right? All right. Beam me up.
Amazing.
Like, subscribe, live long and prosper.